We're live. We made it. We made it on a weird, windy internet, a slightly sketchy day. I had my power out was happened. Wait, words. My power was out a couple minutes ago, and now my internet is back on. Luckily, power's back on. So I think we're okay theoretically, but I don't know if you can hear the wind in the background. It's nuts. So it's just a little freaky for those of us on Maui. There's a little mini fire just down the street from me earlier, and a big one yesterday. So not the most fun place to be mentally right now, with all this wind happening that we can't really stop. But luckily, I think more of the emergency notifications are better, and we're all on alert. So good or bad, I don't know. Anyway, thank you for being here on this Tuesday. Welcome. It is important for me to show up here for all of you guys. Hey, Danny. Hi, Louisa. Welcome. I love showing up here every week. I feel like I don't talk about it enough, but it's one of my favorite parts of connecting with you guys. Mostly but just because I feel like whatever comes out, like I don't plan it, but whatever comes up is something that is always helpful for at least me, and hopefully for you guys too. But it's helpful just to kind of talk it out. This is kind of like a verbal journal for me as a voice teacher. Like I really like to talk about things that I have been talking about in lessons this week, and get deeper into it with you. So let me know what you got going on. What have you been working on? What are your struggles right now with singing, with being a creative person, um, with your mind, with your nervous system, whatever you're working on um, in your creative life? I'm here to chat with you. Welcome. Thank you for being here. If you want to say hi and let me know how your week's been, I would love to hear that. Mostly this week, things that are coming up for me are kind of zooming out a little bit. Both the zooming way out and zooming way in is what I've been working on personally and professionally. And we had a great discussion in our grad program yesterday about what your next 5 minutes looks like and what your next 5 months looks like. And that can be very different depending on what your goals are. And also, if you don't have goals right now, let's solidify something for you, because it doesn't have to be like the be all end all. Like if you fail it, you're a failure of a person. Like that's not what goals are for. It's just to give you a little direction. So like if you zoom out and you look at what you want in the general future, like as a singer, my big goal is to get a sync placement, like to have one of my songs in film and TV. That's a big goal that I have. But if I think about all of the work that it takes to get there, I freak out. I get very overwhelmed, and I think about all of the many hours of things, all the classes I still want to take, all the money that it might take to make that happen, all the practicing and recording and editing of songs to make a catalog that is worthy, quote unquote, of sending in and pitching to those people. But I think it's helpful to look at that because as overwhelming as it can be, it it makes me more motivated sometimes. It helps motivate me to look at my zoom out goal, because when I'm in the weeds, I forget and I get really frustrated. I'm like, why am I doing this? This sucks. I hate it so much. Like I'm not as good as I want to be. But if I zoom out without that judgment on myself for a moment, which I know is easier said than done, but if I just zoom out and I say, oh, okay, now this is what I want. It is what I want. And all these little things that I'm doing are adding up. And when I also zoom out, I can look at the past and how far I have come from where I used to be, which is pretty awesome to look at because we're so used to looking at how far we are from where we need to be in the future, but we don't often take a step back and look at where we are now compared to where we were and how much good work you have put into whatever your goal is so far from where you used to be, because a lot of us, have done a lot of work, and sometimes we forget about that, and we forget to give ourselves credit for all the work that we have done. So if you're practicing and you're like trying to hit this big belty note and you're like, man, it's just not coming out the way I want it to. Okay, number one, there's plenty of things we can do. And I talked about this last week. I had a whole live on what to do after you make a mistake. Instead of just saying, man, that sucks. What am I singing for? There are scientific ways to approach that. So go watch last week's video. Number one is look at the technique. Number two is look at your mind. Number three is look at your nervous system. Hint, 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 hint. But then after that, if you're still frustrated and kind of just stuck in, okay, there's so much work that has to be done, take a minute and zoom out and look at yourself a year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. Look at how much different of a singer you were now than back then. Even for some of us, 3 months ago. Look at how much different a singer you are as opposed to 3 months ago even. And then look at where your goal is, where you want to be. And without judging yourself for being so far away from it, look at how much closer you are to your goal from where you were a year ago. You're making progress. Things are happening. And then go back into that goal and give yourself some time visualizing it. And this is the thing I forget to do all the time. And I need to remind myself. I need to make a sticky note right now to remind myself. Like, let yourself have time sitting and visualizing yourself already having that goal a reality. So if my goal is getting one of my songs on film and TV, I'm going to sit and I'm going to imagine watching TV. I'm going to watch, Love is Blind or something stupid on Netflix. And I'm going to all of a sudden hear a really familiar riff on the guitar. I'm going to be like, oh my God, that's my song. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And so, yeah, it's pretty awesome. Jet, hello, welcome. Do you want to chat a little bit? Sure, why not? So yeah, the zoom out is really important. And the zoom in is all about
that was weird.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
How are you doing?
How are you? I look like a hot mess.
That's okay, so do I.
Yeah, this is my stepdaughter, Eva.
Hi, Eva. Nice to meet you.
So we discovered as she was singing to like a TikTok thing that was a real popular, just instrumental.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her I thought it was an opera, like for someone who's like a mezzo soprano. And how did this tune go? Do you remember what the tune? Anyway, so I told her. So she goes, let me search it. So she searched it and she found it, and she kind of hit some of the notes. And I told her, honey, maybe you'd like to get some vocal coaching for opera music.
Mm-hmm.
OPERA. She's looking it up for you.
Cool,
so that
love
you
it.
can hear it.
That's awesome.
But,
yeah, opera is awesome.
Yeah. Have you had opera training? Because you do have a beautiful voice.
Thank you. Yeah, so my first 3 years of voice lessons were from a classical
this is
coach.
what it sounds like.
Oh, yep. Yes, that's like one of the most famous operatic arias on the planet.
Which one is it?
It's called the Queen of the Night aria.
Yes, I told her I saw someone doing it with when Jim Price had his first inaugural Maui opera concert.
Cool.
And he brought in all these different people, and this woman came in and she did it. And I said, it's really quite impressive. She was listening to an instrumental version of that, where it was just violins or whatnot. So she tried it. I was like, I was so impressed.
That's awesome. I love that. You have such a good foundation already. Yeah, you don't have to sing on Instagram Live. That's a lot of pressure. But yeah, I think it's really good that you have that interest and foundation already, because I took classical lessons for 3 years and it opened up so much of my mind about what is possible in the voice. Like I was singing like singer-songwriter stuff. I was into musical theater, but I always felt like there was a block there and I didn't think I could do all those things that other people could do, like the big belty singers, you know. But then I took classical lessons and she just showed me how easy it could feel. Like she really focused on the ease first, and then the bigger sounds came out of that. And I still use a lot of those techniques today, even if I'm not singing musical theater, even if I'm singing pop, I use a lot of those muscle memory feelings.
Yeah,
so
I've noticed when I relax and just kind of like bubble of air, like in my diaphragm, and I just kind of open it up and relax. That I mean, I don't consider myself a singer, but that sounds kind of silly as a person that isn't a creative person, because I know that anyone can be creative, anyone can be an artist. So in that essence, I should also include that singing.
Absolutely, yeah. Just because
that we can all improve our singing.
Totally.
There's some intent on how you hold your body, and for me, it's always feeling like I'm going to run out of air. So of course, when I think I'm going to run out of air, I run out of air.
Yeah.
And I stop and just go, okay, I have all the air, and it's all located right here, and I can just like, instead of like holding it like, I don't want to let go of it. It's just kind of trust and let go. So anyway, everything you say and the things that I've watched has been very awesome.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. But yes, you're so right. Anybody can sing, and it's such a great thing for people to start just feeling creative and play with, even though you don't need to go on stage and be a rock star. Like that's a lot of pressure, but at least play with it and go pretend to be an opera singer for a little bit and see what sounds you can make. You know, it doesn't have to be as hard as everybody thinks it is. Like there's a lot of training involved to get to the operatic level, so you can sing that way for 5 hours, but you can still make a lot of those sounds and play with it and enjoy yourself as it is.
Right. So thanks for spending time with us.
I love it. Yeah, it was so nice to meet you, Eva, right?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I hope I get to sing with you.
Yay. Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right, bye, Jet. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Yay, that was fun. It's one of my Maui musical theater friends. Thanks, Danny. That's so nice. So yeah, that's right along the lines of what we were talking about. Like, even just finding moments where you can zoom out and say, you know, someday I'd like to sound like an opera singer. Like, that's pretty awesome to have that as a goal, and it's not impossible by any means. So I think it's really good to daydream a little bit too, and allow yourself to daydream and not shoot yourself down, because we do that so much, especially adults. We have these dreams in our heads and we're like, yeah, maybe, you know, someday I'd like to sing opera style, but no, I don't think it'll ever happen, so I'm just going to give up. And we do that to ourselves constantly with art, especially. So I think zooming out and giving yourself a little boost in your goal is really, really important. And then the zooming in part is also equally as important in order to get to that goal. And the zooming in part, I mean, and number one thing I've been trying to do lately is journal more, because I have a hard time getting a handle on what parts of my brain are really me and what is all of the extra thoughts that I've been taught to think by society and other people in my life. And so journaling has been really something I need to do. And I did it for the first time in months, a couple nights ago. And it was very, very helpful. It just kind of like calmed everything down. It helps sort things out in my brain. And I started to realize, like, oh, this is my next step forward. Like, I don't need to think about all the 20 things that I need to do in order to get to my goal. I just need to pick half of one thing, not even a full thing, just the first half of one thing. And that has been really helpful. And for me, it's like voice lessons, right? Like when you're in a voice lesson with me, I'm asking you lots of questions, and I try and keep it so that we're not talking about 18 things in one lesson, although sometimes that happens. I try and focus on just like one skill at a time. And so we get really detailed about it, and we get really focused, and so you're feeling solid about that one skill, so that next time as you're thinking about another skill, that first skill is now muscle memory, and it's not something you have to worry about anymore. And it'll come back and need more coaching and more layers later on, because we're always in a spiral. Like, we're coming back to the things that we learned, but at a deeper layer. It's one of my favorite metaphors about like mental health and learning in general. Is like, it's not just like you're leveling up, you're actually learning surface level things, and then you're coming back around to similar thoughts and getting at a deeper level, and then you're swirling back around to deeper thoughts. Same thing with your voice. You're learning one thing about the breath, and then you go on to other skills, and then you come back to the breath, and you're like, oh, I'm learning something deeper, but about the same skill. And then you come back around and you learn another deeper layer about the breath, and et cetera, et cetera. And you keep going until you are amazing at that skill, because you didn't shy away from it. You didn't shy away from diving deep. You were willing to open yourself up and look inside. And that is a very important thing to do as an artist in any discipline. If you're an actor, if you're a writer, if you are a singer, if you're a painter, like, you can make art without looking inside, but it's going to be better art if you do look inside. And you'll find those things that are holding you up if you do that. So like, I never require any of my students to like tell me their deepest, darkest thoughts, but I usually suggest, like, here's a question for you. Go think about it, go journal about it, and see how that affects how you relate to your own voice, right? So a lot of times we'll have these experiences from our childhood, like, you know, your mom told you that you were too loud one time when you were singing, and you internalized that more than you thought. And you didn't even realize it until it comes up in a voice lesson, and you're afraid to be loud. You're afraid to belt or something. And so then I'll say, you know what? Here's your homework. Go discover where that voice comes from. You don't have to tell me, but I want you to know where it comes from. Because then if you know where it comes from, then you can start to separate from that. It doesn't have to be your reality forever. And you can say, nope, I don't choose that anymore over time. And you build up the ability and the boundary with that voice inside your head. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it happens. You discover a whole lot about where you've come from and what's holding you back from the bigger dream. And so going very, very micro about what's going on in your mind and what's going on in your voice, and what you want out of this whole thing, will help you discover what your next step will be, so that you're not quite so overwhelmed, right? Like, a lot of singers, they come in and they're like, okay, I have all these questions. I need to know how to use my breath properly for breath support. I want to know what the whistle tone is. I want to know why rock singers sound different than singer-songwriter singers. And I try and answer a lot of these questions, but a lot of times I try and like focus a little bit, because it's not terribly helpful to get all the answers in one lesson, because how much of that are you really going to integrate and keep a hold of, you know? So I'm much more a fan of like one or two skills that we talk about in a lesson, and then you take those and you practice them and you settle into them until you feel like they are more of a home instead of just a place that you visited once. And so then after you feel more at home in that, then you can start to see, okay, maybe I don't need to find out what my whistle tone sounds like right now. Maybe I just need to expand more into my chest voice. What does a speaky sound like in different emotions? What does it sound like in this genre versus this genre? Like, just exploring one little part of your voice and becoming more best friends with it. And then a lot of times you'll have a little more focus about what the next step is for you. So you're not trying to do all the steps, you're just trying to do the first half of the first step. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to live by lately, is like, if you're feeling lost in the weeds of what it means to be a better singer, whatever that means, because man, is that hard to define. That's what most people come and they tell me. I'm like, okay, what's your goal? Oh, I just want to sing better. Like, okay, great. I love that. Let's talk more about what that means. Like, what is better? And why is that the idea of better that you are needing? Like, what features of your voice do you not like, and why do you not like them? Because better is pretty subjective. So we talk a lot about that, a lot about ideas about singing, how we've been raised to think about singing in a certain way. But then my favorite thing to do is say, okay, what's the big goal? What's the rainbow win here? What is your thing that when it happens, it will be clouds part, rainbows in the sky, angels singing? What does that look like for you? And if it's overwhelming to think about getting there, just close your eyes and daydream for a second. If you had magical powers, what would you flick your wand and say, this is what I want my voice to do, without thinking about how or all the work it's going to take to get there? And then we look at the rainbow and we say, cool, let's zoom way in for a second and say, if I were to give you a record deal in this moment, what are the kinds of things that people who have a record deal do and have and say to themselves? What do they work on a daily basis? If they had 15 minutes, what would that person do? Because yes, you have many decades to work on this. However, in this moment, is it helpful to think about all of that work? Probably not. So we go inside. We do a little introspection. I ask lots of questions. We do some journaling. And your job is to think, what do I want to do in this moment? What would be the most easily accessible thing for me to do for my voice? Whether it's just practicing and playing around, making some weird noises in the car for 15 minutes on your commute somewhere, that might be the most helpful thing for you to do. Whether if that's too overwhelming for you, go grab my warm-ups and do those for 15 minutes. Don't force yourself to do something that feels like you should. If it's not going to help you get to know yourself better or help lead you to your goal, your rainbow win, you know? So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what I've been thinking about a lot lately. The macro and the micro. So my goal is to journal at least every other night for the foreseeable future, because it helps me get in touch with what's real and what's not. Because I have a lot of unreal thoughts that come from my gremlins and all kinds of other things. All the many gremlins that we face in our day-to-day life. Money gremlins, family gremlins, relationship gremlins, all that stuff. Your singing gremlin is just one of many, a big family. So yeah, try that out. Let me know down here in the comments, what's your 5-minute next step and what's your 5-month big goal, or maybe 5 years, whatever that looks like for you. What's your macro and what's your micro? What are you thinking about in this moment? What are you overwhelmed with? And maybe I can help you figure out what your next one step is. Maybe it's working with a vocal coach to have a deeper conversation about it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just going out there and doing the thing because you have taken lessons, and maybe going to another class would be overkill. I don't know where you are in your life. Some of us, you're already in my lessons, and that is amazing. And we are talking about this on a daily basis. Like, what's the next best thing for you to work on? I know we have lots of things that we want to get better at, and it's really hard to be patient and take them one step at a time. But in a lot of our situations, it's much more healthy to think about what is this one thing that I can celebrate for myself, how far I've come with this one thing, and then I can zoom out and look at, okay, I really am making progress towards the rainbow win that I want, you know? So yeah, hopefully this is helpful. Yeah, tell your friends that I do this every week on Tuesday, most often at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And I do have a backlog of these. They are free for anybody to watch. If you have other singer friends that are looking for some inspiration, who are looking for some talk about what it means to be an artist, especially as an anxious, perfectionist, overthinker kind of a person, this is what I do because that's who I am. And so share my lives whenever you want. Feel free. I'm going to try and make more short form videos sooner, I promise. It's one of my big goals. But in the meantime, brings me joy to do this every week. So you can also look me up on YouTube. I turned it into like a YouTube music podcast. So if you have YouTube Music, you can just go search Vocal Magic Live, and it's a podcast. Or you can watch all the videos in the playlist. I put them up. I think there's almost 60 now, which is awesome and crazy, which means I've been doing this for like over a year. So that's pretty cool. Sending you lots of love. Lots of new exciting things are happening in the new year, so keep your eyes peeled. I'm doing a lot of planning and dreaming and setting things up over the holidays, so taking a step back from launching anything until probably January. But I got a lot of exciting things. A big step up from Vocal Magic, and a little step down for those of you who it has felt too much of a commitment to do Vocal Magic in the past. There's going to be a little baby step program for you. So I'm excited about that. And then for those of you that have already done coaching with me, there's going to be a leveling up availability. So that's pretty exciting. Level 2 Vocal Magic coming soon-ish. So yeah, if you have any feedback, anything you'd like to see in any of those programs, please put it down below. Let me know. My DMs are always open. Happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions you have. You already are leveling up, Danny. You're doing so much leveling up. It's awesome. I love to see it. Speaking of, I'll see you in a little bit. And I'll see all of you guys very soon. As always, if there's anything you want me to make a video about, a short form video about, happy to do it. Just shoot me a little message. Hey, I was practicing the other day and I was having trouble with this. Can you help me? Great. I'll make you a video about it. Happy to do that anytime. Everything else, you know what to do. There's tons of resources up there. Lots of them for zero money at all. So have fun, enjoy, and I'll see you around. Okay, bye.